let's talk about Flexbox. So we have a very simple app, right? As you can see, Hello Flex, nothing very exciting, right? So how can we actually create a layout of, let's say, 3 columns? So if we want to create a layout by default, look, if we have 3 elements on the left hand side, item 1, item 2, item 3, they get displayed one after the other, right? This is how HTML works by default. Elements get block display. There are of course some exceptions, some weird cases, but generally speaking, if we deal with this one after the other. So what do we need to do in order to display these 3 elements alongside on the right hand side of the previous one?
Make another container.
We need a container, correct. How do we create a container? We have the container actually.
Yeah, you can.
But I heard someone, Aisel, saying class name?
Class, yeah.
Correct. Class name what?
Container.
Container. Is that relevant? Can we call that Brexit?
Yes.
Yes, technically speaking we can, but we shouldn't.
It's not semantic.
It's not semantic. Thank you, Daniel. It's not semantic. That's it. So then we go to the CSS, and then on the CSS we do dot container. Then what?
You can put display inline in block.
Display block.
No, it's already blocked.
It's already blocked. So then what? Display what?
Inline block, but
Inline block.
yeah, but if you speak about the display Flexbox,
Right.
you can put the Flexbox.
So with modern CSS.
Display Flex.
Display flex, correct. Hey, that's correct, right? That's correct. So the elements got display alongside. We can again review that. Remember that with DevTools you can highlight elements, and then you can disable rules. Look, I can click here. It's pretty cool, right? I can see the impact of my changes in real time. So, how do I make this element to span all the available space on that row?
You can width
Width.
100%.
Width 100%. Where? On the container.
Yep.
Look, the container is already 100% width. Look at the blue box. You see?
Justify content, space around.
Space around, what do you mean?
You want to put the.
I want to display item 1 on the left, item 2 in the middle, is and item 3 on the right hand side.
Yeah, just justify content. Justify content space around.
Justify content space around. Where? On the
On the
container.
container.
Justify content space around. That's one option. Yes, I wasn't thinking about that, but that's valid. So with Flex, you can decide how the elements inside of Flex will get displayed, right? With justify content space around. That will have some problems. We'll see that in a minute. But actually, you know how to deal with variables, with values here. You delete space around. Look,
Yeah.
right? You can quickly prototype. How will your UI look like? You know, depending on the value. Center, for example, right? But following Daniel's example, which I think is very interesting indeed. But what happened if now I want to add a border? So I want to have one border here, one border there, like conflicts, right? And one border there. How do we add border to my items?
Give you one class for that.
Flex 1 where? No, I don't want to change the flex for now. I just want to add a red border surrounding every item.
For the item, put the border.
For the item. What item? What's the item? I don't have any items.
From the three,
So you
it's
make
on the
one.
container.
Big class.
Yeah.
Here?
One.
Class or class name?
Class name.
Why class name?
Because it's in
It's
React.
React.
Correct, that's React, right? Remember, you put class here, it clashes with that one. And actually, look at the console. That's why you get the error, right?
Class name.
Right?
Item 1.
So, FYI, starting from February, I'm not going to answer any question unless you have DevTools open. This is mandatory. There is nothing worse than going to a job interview, asking someone to a candidate, and see that the guy is struggling with something, but DevTools are closed. But maybe the error is something very obvious, right? So please, DevTools, the first thing you do in the morning, npm start, and open DevTools, leave it open the entire day. Absolutely mandatory, right? Right, so class name. Class name what?
Item.
Item. We can call it how we want, right? Can we call it, for example, column?
Yeah.
That's a column, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, for now. But let's call it item. Right, so let's do the same thing for the others. Right? So, okay, now all our elements have a class name item. So then, on the CSS, we need to change the border, right? How do we change the border of an element?
Border.
Border, what?
2 pixels, 3 pixels.
2
And
pixels,
then color.
Solid.
solid, correct,
That's it.
Black.
Then the color.
and the color, right?
You have to.
That's not sexy, right?
You have to give the width.
We have to eat the width. Okay, what's the width?
100%.
Width 100%. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that works. Not against that. You can, of course, add some padding
Yeah, padding.
to make it look a bit nicer, right? So that's okay. I'll show you a different alternative, if in case you, because probably most of you haven't used justify content, even though justify content is very interesting, right? So I believe most of you, what you've done is on the item, you put flex 1,
Yeah.
which literally gives us the same result. So what's the advantage of using, do you know what flex 1 means actually?
Yes, is
100. No, it's not 100.
No, it's gonna be give from all 3 containers the same width.
That's correct.
It's a ratio.
It's a ratio, that's correct. It's a relative way of measuring. So flex 1 means each item will span 1 virtual column. Because we have 3 items and each one will span 1 virtual column, how many virtual columns will we have? One,
Three.
2,
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Right? Easy. But then you say, oh, that's bullshit. Why are we learning that? So there's a good reason for that. Because that could be a bit more complicated. What happens if item 2 is more prominent? What happens if we want to increase the size of item 2? Well, look, what we can do is we can change flex of item 2 to 2.
Yeah.
And I think because of we don't have space on the screen enough, it doesn't work as expected. Oh, wait a minute. Let me increase. So flex to. Give me no, I change. Okay, that's a good point. So be careful when you change the styles, because if I change the styles here, the change will affect every single item, right?
But
If
you
I
can
want to
separate.
change the styles for one individual element,
Yeah.
at the very top here,
Put different class names.
correct. Or look, you see? Why now? Item 2 is exactly 2 times bigger than item 1 and item 3. Why? How many virtual columns do we have now?
Still have 3.
No?
4.
4.
Because, yes.
Correct.
Okay,
Why
so
4?
2 plus 1 plus 1.
Exactly, exactly. This is a very important principle in modern CSS. Look at the first column. Flex 1. So that means we got 1 virtual column. The second column, flex 2. So up until now, we got 3 virtual columns. Third column, flex 1. So in total, we have 1 plus 2 plus 1 equal 4 virtual columns. That's the total. And now because we know the total, CSS will try to decide how big, how large each column is. So we got 4, and we know that the first will span 1 out of 4, the third will span 1 out of 4, but the second one will span 2 out of 4. That's why the second is actually fitting 50% of the space. What happens if I change 2 to 3? Will get bigger, right?
Yeah.
You see? Make sense? Right? Right. And what happened if I change here, instead of flex 1, I put flex 2?
Item 1 and item 3 is going to be bigger.
Item what?
Item 1 item 3 is going to be bigger.
No, it's,
This will affect every item.
yeah, all of it.
Yeah,
All the
all of
yeah.
it,
all of it.
So it'll be like 6 in total.
So more got it. If we change flex to 2, that means that we are transforming our column system, right? At the moment we have 3 virtual columns. But if I change to 2, we have 6 virtual columns. But the thing is, each item will span 2 out of 6, which is 1/3. So nothing will change, right? Look, I can put 1,000,000 here if I want. Nothing will change. So now we have 300,000 virtual columns, but because in reality each item spans 800,000, that means that in relative terms each element spans 1/3 of the available space. Does it make sense? Right? So just to summarize that, by default put flex 1. All the elements will have the same dimensions. If because of any particular reason one of the elements is more important, then that's fine. Then change the flex of that particular element to 2, 3, whatever. Right? Any question? That will obviously scale with the browser. So if I shrink the browser, right, flex, for example, flex 3, right? This is fluid, it's dynamic, right? You see?
Ricardo, can
Yeah.
I just ask one question?
Of course.
You're doing that in DevTools,
Yeah.
but in Visual Studio, do you have to create a new item class?
I did it already. So in Visual Studio, look, I added 3 item class names.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on the CSS, yeah, I did that, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
this kind of prototyping is good for quick testing, but as soon as I refresh the browser, changes will be gone, right? So how can we do that? If we want to definitely make item 2 larger, how can we do that? Well, easy. The only thing we need to do is go to the HTML, add a new class to item 2, for example that, you see? Or even better, you can do that. Right. So what is large means? For now, nothing. For now, nothing. But now I can go to the CSS and I can do dot is large flex 3. Right? That should be quite readable. So if I want to make an element larger, I just need to assign that class name, and you see the element will get bigger, right? Of course, I can reuse it several times. You see, so now 1 and 3 are larger, but not 2. Right? So we can play around with that. So this strategy was defended by a book called Smacks.
Hi.
Yep. Hi.
I'm not able to see the screen.
Okay, thank you. I'll share it again. You sure? Probably I'm presenting, but I'll try again.
Why do you only need dot is large? Why not dot item is large?
That's a good question. Can you see the screen now?
That's better.
Okay, awesome. So why is large and not item is large? We can, technically speaking, we can put dot item dot is large. That will make no difference.
No.
Why not?
Because in CSS
Yeah.
you mark classes with dot, but on that line you got the 2 dots. No, that's
So that's correct. That's correct, because here what we say is find an element with class item and also class is large. So there is no difference. So as soon as the element has both class names, item and is large, it will work. You see, item and is large. But this is a bit to make things a bit more complicated. We'll talk about when it's a good idea to use this kind of specific selectors. We'll talk about specificity, right? But for now, let's leave it like that. So, with that class name, then the element will get bigger, right? So this is a really good book called Smacks. that one, I recommend you to have a look, especially because, you know, one of the big problems, generally speaking, the companies, they have great JavaScript developers, so, you know, software can scale relatively easily, but not the majority, but some of the really good JavaScript developers tend to ignore how important CSS is. So at the end of the journey, they build complex, awesome JavaScript applications that don't scale well because of all the issues with the styling, right? I mean, you can feel that if you go. There are so complex websites. I'm thinking about the British Airways website. I can give you so many examples. They're so complex, so, you know, important in that aspect. But they look so horrible, and they look horrible because no one wants to touch any single line of CSS, because they are afraid of breaking everything, right? So in the recent times, some of the, you know, CSS experts in the world, they are trying to convince the community that in reality, if we think about that, it's not that complicated to create proper CSS, right? This is a bit off topic, but just FYI, I strongly recommend you to read that book. There is a free version online, I believe, because then you can put it in your CV, and then companies will realize that you look after CSS, and that will be very valuable, and they will hire you, and you know, all these things, right? So, apart from that, at the moment, let's get rid of this large thingy, because this is beyond the scope of the workshop, and then let's simply look after mobile. What happens if we go mobile, if we change the resolution, right? If we shrink the browser, look, that's absolutely horrible, right?
Yeah.
How can we make each element to get displayed after the previous one on mobile?
If you try to put one class item max width.
Where? Item max width here?
Yeah, but
Not here.
no. Where is the width? 100%.
Right. Look, I've got the media query already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
okay.
So that media query will run only if the resolution of your screen is up to 600 pixels. Right? So whatever we put here will only apply to mobile or to small resolutions at least. So what can we put here to change the layout on mobile? Max width,
And then smaller resolutions like 100.
like that?
If it's for container,
The container.
you have to include it as container.
Okay, container. And then what?
Max
Max what?
width.
Max width? What? 38%, for example, right?
Yeah.
No, that's wrong. Okay. Right? It doesn't make sense.
Like look.
So, if we're on mobile, we want to change the way the element gets displayed. So, no one knows the answer here? Display block. Thank you. There are at least two ways to do that. Display block. Right. With display block, we are reverting line number 2, essentially, right? So that means, well, probably need to decrease the speed trap to 500. Yes, here you go. You see? So now, you see the size of the window. You see here, right? Look at what happens when we go below 500. You see? Mobile is, right? Is there any other way to do that without using display block?
What do you want to do there? Is it one column? Or?
Correct, one column.
Flex the container.
Flex,
Column.
flex column. Close, but wrong. Okay, Megan, can you repeat that again, please? Correct. Flex direction, what?
Column.
Column, correct. This is task number 4. So if you forgot that, it's maybe a good time to revisit it, right? So that will make the same impact. Here, it's a bit less aggressive. We don't change the way we display the element. Still flex. But now we're explicitly telling that the elements will get displayed one after the other. Right? Look. Same thing, visually speaking, same result. Right? Any question? Any of the guys on the other side of the line? Jeff, Dave, Rich, Bala?
Actually, I do have a question. As I recall it, we deleted the whole line, the media line.
Yeah.
Am I right about that or wrong?
So you did what, sorry? Media what?
Well, as I remember, but I might be wrong, when we introduced the Flex director,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
after we deleted the media section.
You delete the media section.
You have two methods of doing it. You have two methods of staying on mobile.
As I recall it, yeah, but I might be wrong.
I didn't get that to me.
I think you make the video watch, then at the end we delete the video query because we were
No, we cannot, listen, we cannot delete the media query. If we delete the media query, look, it will work fine on mobile, but now it won't work fine on desktop, right?
Okay.
Right? That's why we need the media query, because we want to apply that change only if we are on mobile. Right? On desktop it's fine. We don't want to change that on desktop. That's on mobile. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Yes. Thank you, Dave. Then what else? So, Jonan, do you have any? Is Jonan around?
Yeah, I'm here. No, just listening.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Jonan. Okay, right. So, how do we the second row? Another container. Can we do copy paste?
Yes.
Do you know how to copy selected text from Visual Studio? If you are a Lucky Mac user, you can press Option Shift down. Look. Oh, that's great, right? You didn't saw that coming, eh?
And for unlucky people?
If you are a Windows user, I don't say unlucky, it's different. Go on. Everybody is special. So if you're a Windows user, don't know the shortcut, the probably will be Alt Shift down or Control Shift down, something like that. There is a Visual Studio shortcut matrix somewhere on the internet that will give you the exact shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
And actually, I think you can use that on the coding challenge as well. You can copy lines and something, right?
Also shift down, control shift down.
Yeah.
One
So
or two.
Visual Studio has some nice tricks. So, for example, how do I select the same token multiple times?
Is it control D?
Correct. So we can do on Mac, we can do Command D. On Windows, I think it's Control D. And look, now we can change everything in one go, right? It's pretty handy. How do I change the position of a line? How do I move a line up and down?
Select it.
You don't need even to select it. Option and look. Right? It's pretty convenient. So yes, I suggest you to spend some time looking at this kind of useful shortcuts because they will definitely help you to speed up your development process. So I'll select the container and I'll copy it below, right? And then it works immediately, which is a good thing, right? So now we have two rows. Will it work fine on mobile? What do you think?
Is that another container?
No, I added it already.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that right? So that was fine on mobile.
Yeah.
However, the problem is, what happens if I do really want a very fluid grid? Because at the moment, we have like two scenarios, right? We got desktop and we got mobile. But in 2019, you know, the difference, the line between mobile, desktop, tablet, you know, it's not that obvious. We don't have any red line separating what a good UI for mobile is and what a good UI for desktop, right? So we probably need something a bit more fluid. So, let me change a couple of things. Let me reduce the padding. Right. So, for example, what I can clearly see is that even though we have 3 elements on each row, if the screen gets larger, I may want to put these elements on the right hand side, right? Because I got the space enough, right? So what happens if the boxes are quite big in terms of height? So height 100 pixels each, right? You see, if I have a very large screen, I may want to put the second row on the right hand side, right? You know the problem. You get what I'm talking about?
Grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to talk about grid yet. So before using grid, let's see how can we put these elements on the right hand side depending on the resolution. So,
So would you be flex direction row?
second,
Flex direction row.
flex direction row. By default, flex direction is row. So the first row has flex direction row, the second row has flex direction row,
Okay.
unless we go mobile, in which case the first row has flex direction column, the second row has flex direction column. Right? But what happens if I remove the second container and I literally drop the 3 elements at the bottom on the first line all together?
It's one row.
So that's expected, right? Because all the elements are affected by the same container, so they can display one after the other. Even though that will be okay at some point, whenever the resolution gets smaller, at some point I would like to start moving elements to the bottom, right? So with Flex, we can control that. We need a couple of properties. Do you know which properties, which CSS rules do we need in order to change the layout depending on the resolution?
It's not flex basis.
Correct. So flex basis. Where do we put flex basis?
Yes, on the item.
On the item. That's correct. On the item, we can put flex basis. For example, 100 pixels. So what that means is, it's okay to have all the elements on the same row, unless their individual size goes below that width. So for example, how big each element is at the moment? Wait a minute. It's not 100 pixels. So according to that rule, we should have moved some elements at the bottom. Why is it not working? Because of a good reason, because we forgot to do something. So that rule will only work, will only apply if we remember.
Something is missing in row.
Correct, something is missing in the row on the container. What? Remember, Flexwrap. Remember Flexwrap? So with Flexwrap, wait a minute, Flex. Flexwrap, right?
You type in food.
Okay, there was a typo somewhere. Okay, cool. So yeah, you see, Flexwrap. So Flexwrap means try to put everything in one line, but eventually, if you straddle, it's okay to move elements underneath. Alright, so we need these 2 lines. Flexwrap equals wrap on the container, and then on the column, we need to specify when do we want to move elements to a new line. So look at what happened now. You see the width of the element, right? So if we keep shrinking the browser, eventually item 4 will move down. You see in a minute. What's the width now? Item 4, 131 pixels. Eventually, you see, if I can shrink the browser, you see? Now, something interesting. Why, even though we said that the minimum width of each item is 100, now we still, look, 125, so we still have some room, right? Why now it gets promoted to a new line immediately? Right, first of all, CSS. We don't need the media query anymore, right? So this is what I believe Dave was suggesting before. Eventually we get rid of that, but to get rid of that, we need to have a strategy, right? So now the strategy is, whenever the width of each element goes below 100 pixels, then move it to a new line. Is it working or not? What do you think? Are you sure? I'm still not happy, to be honest. If I say 100 pixels, clearly, look, 124. Why it gets promoted to the new line immediately? What's going on? It's ignoring me a bit, right? Can anyone figure out why elements get moved to a new line even though they are still relatively large? 124 pixels is. I'll give you a hint. Do we have any padding?
Yes.
Yeah. Box size.
Remember, we learned it last week, right?
Yes.
Box model.
Yeah.
What happened? What's the problem?
In around is put in pound padding.
Correct. So by default,
Added.
correct. So by default, it's considering 100 pixels, considering the blue box.
Yeah.
But I don't want to consider the blue box. I want to consider the blue plus the green box.
Box size and border box.
Correct. We need to change the box sizing to what?
Sizing, box size and border box.
Border box, correct. So if we put box size in border box, look at that, you see? Much better.
Yeah.
Much better. So now hopefully that should be precise. 115. I mean, you can calculate it here. You see, 400. At the time it goes below 400. Look. Yes, you see? That's exact. That's precise. And the same thing, whenever it goes below 300, you see? So now it's very precise. Does it make sense? So now that scales really well. Regardless of the size of the browser, it will try to figure out how to display elements, right? And of course, this will work fine on mobile. Well, eventually. Yes, because that's very small. It's 100 pixels. It's very small, right? But we'll change the values afterwards, and we'll see how good this looks like on mobile, right? So, for example, a smaller screen. We've got 3 elements on each row. If we have a huge screen, pretty much every single element will be displayed on the same way, right? It's fluid. Any question? No?
What if you remove the padding?
What if we remove the padding?
Would you need a box sizing?
If you remove the padding, technically speaking, you still need the box sizing because we have a border, right? So yes, generally speaking, keep the box sizing border box all the time. And then
When you have the some content, it's gonna be as well. It's gonna be
Correct.
It's coming the H1, H2 as well. It's coming. the
Correct. So yes, exactly. So there are different scenarios where we may need box sizing. Do you remember how to apply box sizing to every single element on the app?
Yes.
How?
Multiply.
Multiply.
You do asterisk.
Asterisk.
Asterisks.
That's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
put it in.
And then we can put it there, right?
Yeah.
That's a bit more elegant. So now we don't need to put box sizing all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So even though that works as expected, kind of, imagine that this is a list of thumbnails of YouTube, right? Or close links actually. Don't you think a bit weird that, for example, item number 6 is way wider than any other item on the screen? If we have images here, we want all the images to have the same size. But now, item 6 is huge. Now still item 5 and 6 are bigger. This is probably the only acceptable scenario where every single box has the same dimension, right? That's okay, but whenever at some point this is wrong, that's wrong as well. So this is one of the limitations of Flexbox. Flexbox was created to be a very flexible, modern, dynamic way to create unidirectional grids. So what a unidirectional grid is? A unidirectional grid is essentially either everything in one row or everything in one column, one axis, right? For simple things it's very valuable. I use Flexbox on a daily basis and that's fine, right? But at some point you may want to do things a bit more complicated. We don't have one axis here, we have 2, right? We have 2 axes. We have multiple rows, potentially, and multiple columns. So for these kind of scenarios, Flexbox is not that ideal. So do you know which is the multi-dimensional alternative to Flexbox?
Grid.
Yeah.
Gridbox, that's correct. So Gridbox is a more recent approach towards layouting your app. So how can we do a very similar thing with Gridbox? First of all, I'll remove every single reference to Flex. Right? So now all the elements get displayed one after the other. But now, look. You can put display, grid. Right? I'll show you the line. So here what we say is display is not flex, it's not block, it's grid. See, that was expected. Next line is a little more complicated. So in the next line we declare how our columns will look like, right? And this is a bit tricky to explain. That is one of the most simplistic scenarios using grid. So essentially the important thing here is that 150 pixels. Do you know what 150 pixels means here? That's the mean width. That's the mean width. So that's the same principle as Flex. Here we say, hey, every column will have at least 150 pixels. It's okay if it's larger than that, but never below, never below. If the columns get narrower, so if they have less than 150 pixels, keep moving things below. So for example, now, this one has 157. In a second, you will see how item 3 moves to the next row. Look. You see? And if we keep shrinking the browser, whenever it goes below 300, right, because it's 150 pixels each column, we have 2 columns. So whenever the size of the screen goes below 300, item 2, the one on the right, should move to the next line. Look. Now, see? And now it's going the other way around. Whenever the resolution goes above 400, what? 450, correct. 150 plus 150. So once we have space enough to allocate 3 columns at 450, item 3 will move to the right. You see? So when will be the next one? 600, correct. At 600, look, 600, item 4 will move to the right. Can you see the difference with the second row? It looks much nicer if what we want is to make sure that all the items have the same dimensions. Sometimes we may not care, right? But if we do care, grid is much better because it clearly helps to control the size of your elements, right? So actually, at Colby, we are using grid in several places. For example, on the videos. Again, resolution doesn't help. But you see here, so in that particular case, we have fixed width. We have 4 elements on each row. Right? On the training, here, we also have grid. It's very solid. If you're curious to see how we've done that, you know you can open DevTools, you can play around, right, and break it a bit. Not much, possible. Alright, so any question, guys?
Now on the top we put this box.
On the top, yeah?
Yeah, box size. Do we still have to use it with the grid?
That's a good question. That's a good, I don't know. Let's try that. So you got the question, right? So using grid, do we still need to use the border box? I think we still need to use it, but we'll figure it out in a second. So now, whenever it goes below 600, it will change. Correct. But what happens if on the container, what happens if I comment that line? Oh, look. Oh, something weird happened, right? It's a little strange, actually. Yeah, so we definitely still need that, because otherwise, grid seems a bit incompatible, right? So you see, the columns are overlapping. You see, the first column finished here, But then grid says, hey, do whatever you want, but I need to display the second column here. So there's a kind of clash, right? That's why, again, this is another good reason to always do that, because now that looks perfect. You see the differences, right? Without box sizing, with box sizing, right? Is there any question? No? Guys?
Yeah, one question.
Yep, sure.
So regarding CSS units,
Yes.
is pixels the best to use for scalability?
Well, that depends what you want to do, right? I mean, sometimes the size of your elements is fixed. So why? Because I don't know. Sometimes you may want to display, for example, an icon, right? So when you display an icon here on the left-hand side, I don't care how large your screen is. Icons will always have the same dimensions. That's why to display icons, fixed width is fine. Also on the menu, right? The size of the width of the menu. I don't mind how large your screen is. I want to have fixed width, right? But then, for in other scenarios, right, like here with the grid, now I don't want to set fixed width. I want the boxes to span all the available space, right? That's why here we may use percent, right? So we'll do a workshop to discuss the differences between pixels, percent, M, RM, V8, all these modern things, right? We'll talk about them, right? But for now, generally speaking, my point is try to use percent as much as possible. Thanks to Flex and Grid, we don't need to hard code any percent anymore unless we want to do something specific, right? You can see we haven't done pretty much anything, right? It's pretty much straightforward.
That's enough, yeah?
Yep. Yep. Anything else, guys? No? No? Cool. So that was it for today. Thank you for watching. Cheers.